Scraps! What are you doing?
I'm playing with you.
We've had this conversation before. I'm not a cat.
I know.
I'm not your pet either.
That's debatable.
Get out! Out! Dang pixies.
Buddy!
No! No! Scraps! Scraps! Damn it!
Hi everyone. Today was such a beautiful day, I figured I'd do the intro outside. On this video, I'm going to show how I did a cosplay for Kayla. The character is from a show named Inuyasha, which debuted in the US 2002. Last year, Aiko and I started watching it again, and Kayla kind of got sucked into it as well. She fell in love with the little Fox Demon Shippo and asked for me to make a costume of it. And so, without further ado, let's start the video. To start this project, I draped a pattern using cotton muslin. Traditionally, Hakama, or the pants I'm making, have 7 pleats. But at the time, I wasn't really thinking about this or the accuracy because you don't even see the pleats in the finished costume. So I pleated it with just the fullness in mind. After draping the pleats, I drew in the side seam and the side opening, and then the front and back rise of the pants. I then cleaned up the pattern and put it on oat tag. Sewing the pants together, I used a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and then I sewed a zigzag stitch along the raw edges to keep them from fraying. I decided for the side opening to make a facing of 1.5 inches. After I sewed on the facing, I clipped the seam allowance to give it a very sharp edge. Since the hem of the pants are gathered, I made a 2-inch wide strip of fabric and sewed it to the bottom of the hem to make a tunnel for cording. For the back of Shippo's pants, even though you don't see it, I imagine it's pretty much like the traditional Hakama, and it has this back to it. I don't have a pattern for this, and I don't really know the right way to do it, but I wrapped the matching fabric around a piece of cardboard to emulate the traditional look. There's a blue belt and bow that goes over the fur vest of Shippo. Since this is pretty much just for aesthetic and not functional, I decided to cheat the bow. I made a tube of fabric and ironed it flat, then folded the two ends together and sewed it down the middle. I then pinched it and sewed it together by hand, then attached it to the belt. For the kimono top, I used a turquoise silk dupione that I had lying around from another project. The color was extremely close to the one in the anime, so I thought it was perfect to use. After sewing it together, I cut out multitude of leaves in a silver fabric. In the anime, it appears to be white, but I figured to do a little something special. I first attached the leaves to the fabric using an iron-on glue and put fusing on the back side. This firmed up the leaves and made it easier to sew on without worry of puckering the fabric. Once the body of the top was done, I sewed on one edge of the collar and then folded it in and hand stitched the inside. For the vest, I found this extremely soft fur. Kayla loves it so much she wants me to make a pillow out of the scraps. It's a very simple pattern with just one back and two front, with the neckline curving inward to form a V. This is a support system for the tail. I'm using an old harness that I made for my eldest child's xenomorph costume years ago. Now that Kayla is a little bit older, it's going to fit her. It's just a very wide lycra belt with two Velcro closures and a hard PVS pocket, and then the pocket is where this goes. This is the wire skeleton of the tail. This part is what goes into the pocket, and then it goes down to where her butt is, and then this is the tail. This is a 12 gauge wire that I got at a hardware store. And then this is how it looks when it's inserted into the pocket. And you can see it'll hang down and then go out. And here's the tail skeleton again. I wove some batting around this part to help the stuffing to stick to it a little bit so it won't move around as much. For the tail, I used a long-haired false fur in a tan sandy color. I drew an arrow on the back of the fur to make sure that the direction was correct, and I cut out 4 pieces in this shape. Okay, the tail is nice and stuffed, and I'm just going to close up this opening that I left for stuffing it, and the tail will be pretty much done. In making the shoes, I didn't film it, but here are photos to show you what I did. For the shoes, I used one of Kayla's old sneakers to drape fabric over and make a pattern. I used the same fur as the tail, and after sewing it together, trimmed down the hairs to make them shorter. I trimmed the hairs around the toes to define them, and then airbrushed a fabric paint in medium brown. For the wig, I bought two, one for the head and one for Shippo's ponytail. I simply wrapped the second one for the ponytail around itself and attached it to the back of the first wig. For the hair bow, I did it the same as the ones for the Hakama. I also added a very light, watered down brown wash to the wig to make it less shiny and a lot less orange. And with that, I was done. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.
Subscribe!